Aces dropped on Soccer's morning show. Thursday thoughts here at Soccer Down Here. John, here, you there. And we got a couple of things to talk about. We got here's your traffic for the morning. And later today on the network, we will have post-game thoughts last night from Atlanta United 2. Head coach Steve Cook, Noah Cobb, and Efren Morales with the post-game show from last night. Big win for Atlanta United 2 last night over Crown Legacy, 3-1, and this is a double match week for Atlanta United. There's only for the twos. There's only 6 matches left in the regular season. And after last night, the margin to get into the playoffs is 5 points. So Atlanta United 2's got some work to do. 2 more home games on the schedule. So you have a couple of other chances to come out and root on the twos as they chase the playoffs. Got some help last night from the folks that were above them but not directly impacted on that 7 slot. Columbus played Hunt City last night in Huntsville. They had to go to PKs. Crew got the extra point after Huntsville failed to convert in the bottom of the 5th. So 2 points for Crew, 1 point for Hunt City, 3 points for Atlanta United 2. The margin is now 5 with 6 matches to go. This weekend, they go to New England to take on the Revolution. Revolution are in a battle for second and third right now, depending on time of day and live scoring and all that kind of stuff. But the Revs are one of the top 3 teams in MLS Next Pro in the Eastern Conference. They've played them before this year. Who's going to be around for the Revs because of Leagues Cup? Because Bayraktarovic scored a goal last time out, and he was key for the Revs and Revs 2 earlier this season. He's with the parent club for Leagues Cup. So we'll see what the roster looks like. Pre-game show 15 minutes ahead of kick on a very, very busy Sunday in a double match week. Very, very cool stuff for Atlanta United 2. Nicholas Firmino gets his 13th last night. Noah Cobb gets his first ever. Nelson Orji gets a goal last night. Set pieces on impacting all 3 goals for Atlanta United 2. Very, very cool stuff last night for the twos. Great to see everybody out at Fifth Third Bank Stadium. And thanks to everybody who listened, however you listened, whether you yelled at us up into the press box, listened on the app, large device or small. Thanks once again for hanging out with us last night and being a part of everything there. Will, as we're talking MLS Next Pro, is going more. Huntsville should have won the match. Not clinical enough in the first half. Lots of missed chances. Columbus made some changes at the half, really dominated the second 45. So that's what you're staring at. So the race for that 7 spot is the business is really picking up for MLS Next Pro here, as we only have a handful of matches left in the regular season as they sprint toward their postseason in the first season at Atlanta United 2, and everybody else is in MLS Next Pro. So that's what we're staring at with Atlanta United 2. Bam with some news. The AFL has moved the start time of Carlton and Melbourne because of the Australia-France Women's World Cup match. That's very, very cool stuff to see. That the AFL and our boys at Triple M Talks Footy, we know this because as the footy junkie that I am, that's who I listen to. Late night Friday, late night Saturday to get my fix if the game is not on. If the game is not quite yet on FS1 or FS2. And according to BAM, also the Triple MCG will be showing the game on the big screen before the game. And if you're ever in Australia, like I said, and we'll catch up with Bart Keeler coming up in about 20 minutes and get his travelogue, anything that we forgot yesterday. We're going to talk Women's World Cup with Bart. And we're also going to talk some reffing down here with what happened in Leagues Cup. Looks like our golden ticket holder, Lucas Panzica, the play-by-play voice of Nashville, is stuck doing something called training camp for the Tennessee Titans. So we'll try and catch up with Lucas first of the week after the matches this weekend and get his thoughts about what's going on with Nashville and with Leagues Cup, what's going on up there, because we did have a bit of a conversation, and he did say that it was insane what happened in the match last time out with Nashville in the Leagues Cup. Breaking stuff down for Will says, really bad PK awarded by the ref at about 55 or 60 minutes. Not only was the fouled player offside, wasn't even a foul. Player missed, but that put one of the guys in the yellow, and he got a second yellow in the 80th. So but that's the thing. You've got to learn to play. You've got to have the playing with a yellow card sometimes is something that you've got to figure out. Aiden Torres, by the way, played 70 minutes on a yellow last night. Very, 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 very cool stuff. So, we talk about learning in these situations, and Aiden Torres really got on the job training last night, playing on a yellow card. 70 minutes on a yellow, and it was great to see Fuad Adeniyi come back from injury. Everybody thought he was done for the year. Adeniyi came in, gave you 15 minutes, and shut the door last night. And like I said, it's all part of these contributions to get you a big result at home. Cicerone got the red or the second yellow in the 84th, and so morning Knicks. So Cicerone gets the red card shown to him after the second yellow in the 84th minute. So Crew had the final 6+ minutes and got to have the man advantage. Couldn't quite take advantage of the man advantage until in regular time. And so then you end up with Crew getting the extra point in PKs winning at 5-4. Other action last night in MLS Next Pro. We'll go over the standings, and I guess this is evolving into opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code for those of you who are watching on Twitch and on the other social media platforms that we have started, rolling the show out to on when we go live in the morning. So you can watch us live on Twitch. You can watch us live on our Facebook page and on Twitter. So Twitter, Facebook, Twitch. We've started doing that this week because I finally figured out how to punch buttons and say that it could go to multiple places more than once. Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. They give you 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10% reinvested into youth games and youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So I guess the MLS Next Proness that we are discussing has evolved into opening kickoff. Last night, you want to talk crazy. Revs beat Orlando City B 5-4, also in the Eastern Conference. And OCB is trying to challenge for that, for those top 3 spots, because there is a gap between Crown Legacy and everybody else, and then everybody else and the folks that are trying to stay in the playoffs. Top 7, remember, go to the playoffs. And Revs had a 3-2 lead at the half. OCB gets a red, had a 5-2 lead, then held on 5-4. 9 goals at Osceola Heritage Park last night with the Revs and Orlando City B. And you had goal in the 13th, and Orlando City B actually had the lead. Schlegel with a goal in the 13th. And then you had Miller and OG to make it 2-1. Then you had Solis score at 44 to tie it at 2. Jordan Panayotu scores at 45 plus 2 to make it 3-2. Solis gets a red. So Orlando City B is the second half playing down to 10 themselves. Jordan Adebayo Smith scores. Bulma scores a PK. So 53 minutes in, you think you had done and dusted. Nope. Loyola scores in the 68th. Fabian Loyola and the Nabi Kibanguchi scores in the 74th to make it 5-4. Down a man. And so OCB couldn't get the equalizer, but they end up charging back, and 5-4 final there in the match with New England and Orlando City B on the road. So New England Revolution have to go from Orlando back home to Gillette for this match on the weekend against Atlanta United 2. Atlanta United 2 playing at home. And so they didn't have to worry about, really the only thing they had to worry about was the rain, and hoping that they would get the match in before the rain this morning. Really loud this morning, by the way. TFC2 came from behind to beat Red Bulls 2-1. They were down 1-0 in Montclair. They came back for the win. And other action last night, Dynamo Dose beat Colorado Rapids too. We're seeing losses in regulation for the Rapids, something we're not used to seeing this year. Loons 2-1 on the road. Rail Monarchs won 10-9 in PKs last night. Like I said, we'll get into the League's Cup discussion with Niko Moreno at 10:30 and discuss all this PK madness. 10-9 in PKs. Rail Monarchs lose. So San Jose gets the extra point on the road. San Jose 10-9 in PKs. Tacoma wins out west. Timbers 2-6 on Los Dos, winning 6-1. 2 matches tonight. Both of them in the Eastern Conference. Both of them impacting Atlanta United too. FC Cincinnati at home at Northern Kentucky can help things out if they can get a result against Chicago Fire. That one's at 7 o'clock on MLSNextPro.com. And it is NYCFC 2 at 8 o'clock on Season Pass. Inter Miami 2 at Belson Stadium in Jamaica, Queens can help out Atlanta United 2. They're last in the table. They can help out Atlanta United 2 by holding down NYCFC. So we'll keep an eye on those matches tonight, 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock. Abby in this morning quickly, popping in to let you know, exercising her right to be present at a hearing for a teacher who may be fired for reading a book one parent doesn't like. A teacher who read a book that talks about diversity. So hoping this teacher can keep her job and teaches how she has for numerous years to teach how a student can be a critical thinker. So you listen. And great game last night for the Twos. So Abby is going to be there to support those who help us learn. I'm also here to help us learn. Jared Smith, welcome back, sir.
Hello, John.
How are you? It's been a couple of days.
It has. It has.
Uh-huh. The traffic this morning, Bart's coming in at 9:30, so we'll be discussing reffing down here and the World Cup and anything else left in the Bart Keeler travelogue at 9:30. Then Niko will be here at 10:30. So prepare your questions accordingly for however long you wish to go this morning.
Yeah, we just got to discuss with Niko the idea of LAFC and Monterrey playing against each other in the Rose Bowl, and the fact that that game is gonna need you know how when the president comes to town,
you're gonna need John Ponch, Gautreer, and everybody, man.
You know how when the president comes to town, okay, maybe y'all don't know this. They basically put a limit on flying within that area. So like when he comes to Atlanta, for instance, when we worked in traffic, our helicopter was grounded.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't fly the traffic chopper when Air Force One's coming through.
Correct.
I think it was either Jim DeSeal or God rest his soul, Keith Callan.
Yes.
Once talked about it might have been Jim Van actually, who got a phone call once of like, who is this? What are you doing in the air? Like, who is this? And they were just screwing around, and it was the Secret Service telling them to ground the bird. You're not supposed to be in the air. We're gonna need that sort of like no fly zone, no anything zone around the Rose Bowl.
Yes, and our friends at Monterrey are less than happy about all of the travel that they're having to do in this tournament. Head coach for Monterrey actually came out and said he hoped that they revisit how things are laid out. Now, I'm paraphrasing, but yeah, he's not happy at all the travel that Monterrey is having to do to go from point to point to point. And he said that if they were to win this matchup coming up on the weekend, then he's sure that he would probably have to travel to the eastern half of the country. And he lamented the toll that it was taking on his team and on his players for advancing into the tournament as deeply as they have. So
I would love for them to. I would love for them to play it in Mexico next year.
Yeah, I'd love for them to find a way to do that. But I imagine that visas and traveling and customs and organization is probably all a part of this discussion, where it's easier if you have everything self-contained. That if you can come up with customs and Customs Express, if somebody wants to start Customs Express as a business, then, and if you could be in concert with all the governments in this hemisphere, especially when it comes to sports and sports travel. I think you'd be pretty safe for I think it'd be pretty safe for you as a business if you wanted to do Customs Express, and then we could cut the promos here on the show.
And to Bam's point, Bam makes a good point here because, like, I would love for them to play these games in Mexico because I would love the atmosphere. It would be chaotic. It would be tough to travel. There's some states people would not want to travel to, and understandably so. But Bam does make a good point that as much as the coaches from Liga MX teams are upset, do you know how much money they make here? Do you know how many? You saw how many fans they put in the stadium in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
That was in Nashville. That was before all the Club America fans went to Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
Bunch of Club America jerseys pouring into the Jason Aldean bar.
And making sure that they run into Jeff Fisher serving them behind the bar at whatever bar they're at. Sheamus comes by and gets angry at somebody.
Yes,
but no, I mean it's.
Yeah. God, that's a good point. Yeah, Sheamus would just like.
Mm-hmm.
I still said we need to get Drew McIntyre in either an Atlanta kid or a Charlotte kid. We need somebody. We need another one from the South.
I mean, it's easy if you could
British
get Cody.
Isles rivalry.
If you get Cody, it's done.
Yeah, you could get Cody, but I'm thinking somebody from the British Isles.
Okay.
Sheamus is Irish as the day is long.
True. That is accurate. That is absolutely accurate.
And as much as people may not want it, you could do McIntyre here. McIntyre is a rabid Rangers fan, and your technical director just happened to play for Rangers.
Yeah.
And spoke very highly of it.
Okay. All right. So I see where you're going here. I see the logic that's attached.
Who else could you get? William Regal. Oh my God. Or get Pac to roll up in a Charlotte kit.
True.
Actually, Pac in an Orlando kit would work because just the same amount of insanity.
Yeah. Michael Head sees both sides of the argument. However, if Liga MX coaches don't like to travel, they need to take the issue up with their league leadership. They agree to the format. Check and double check. It's like your league boss has signed off on this, sir. And I mean, when you've got a double match week here in Major League Soccer,
yeah,
you'd like for the schedule makers to kind of express a little logic, but there are times when they don't.
No, and you're already moving games for regular season, like Messi's first MLS regular season games got moved, which makes sense because they're still existing all over God's creation.
That is true.
It's going to take some time. It's okay. It's going to take some time.
That is true.
It's going to be okay.
Yeah, you'll be all right.
We can all come together as one. We the world can unite to hate on Miami yet still love Messi.
The Charlotte match, for those of you that may not have heard, has been pushed back because of their both teams having deep runs into the tournament. Knicks may, whichever divine being you believe in, have speed upon your soul. Dental procedure for Knicks this morning. He hates the dentist.
As we all do.
Yes. And Five Stripe is not wrong. Everybody hates the dentist. Considering that in the last 12 months, I've had a tooth chip, a root canal, and a crown, and my dentist sit there, and my orthodontist and dentist sit there and go, if we did these other 3 teeth, you'd be golden. And I'm going, okay. As long as it's not during football season, we'll be all right. And so, of course, when's my next appointment? A month before the playoffs begin. So we've got that going for us. Yes, everybody hates the dentist.
I'm sorry, I'm reading the Joel Beal tweet.
All right. So what did Joel Beal have to say, sir?
New from the Billy Waters book. Phil Mickelson made over $1 billion with a B.
Oh yeah.
In bets and attempted to gamble on a Ryder Cup he was actively playing in.
Please tell me you're not surprised by that. Please tell me that you're not surprised by that. Phil Mickelson.
I'm not. It's just funny because all I can think of is is the Masters update that we get every April.
Uh-huh.
Chris Vernon's Masters update,
Oh, absolutely.
which should be up for a Peabody every year.
Absolutely.
Um, and last year when he did it, one of the verses he was rapping was Phil Mickelson. It was like Phil Mickelson 1 under. It's like screaming should have been a better gambler.
Should have been a better gambler. Exactly. I mean, that's that when Verno hits that, it is absolutely it is tremendous entertainment. And if it does not win all the awards, then there is something wrong with the submissions process. And so, yeah, if Verno doesn't win everything, then that is it is the biggest travesty known to mankind if Verno does not win everything. Look, Fig Jam would bet on departures and arrivals walking into an airport. Literally, that's the kind of guy he is. He just the vig is always there for him. That energy is always there. I mean, literally, it's like departures and arrivals at the airport. It's like everybody betting on the Smales kid in Caddyshack. That's the kind of action. That's the kind of vig that Fig Jam wants. Bam with an update. Lauren James got 2 matches for her stomp on the Nigerian player, which means that if the Lionesses make it to the final, Lauren James gets reinstated. A lot of folks thought that she might get 3. They went to the middle and they gave her 2. So she is, in theory, available if the Lionesses make it to a final. And probably the biggest news of the morning that we've yet to talk about, because we're still kind of in opening kickoff mode. Bayern Munich has agreed to a deal worth close to £100 million for Harry Kane. Adjust your fantasy teams accordingly, probably. 280 goals, 435 appearances, set to depart. They've agreed to terms. Bayern going to pay 86 up front with add-ons, taking the deal close to 100. It's a record for the club. Now, all that's left is for Harry Kane to make the decision. Teams have agreed. Kane wants to go. That's the only thing that's left is for Kane to sit there and go, yep, time to go.
So, first of all, do you remember the movie Blazing Saddles?
Absolutely, I remember the movie Blazing Saddles. It is a national treasure.
The William J. Lepidome Memorial Gambling Casino for the criminally insane.
Absolutely.
It's exactly where Phil Mickelson needs to end up because, my God, the numbers on some of these bets are it's legitimately an addiction.
Yeah,
and screams addiction.
Absolutely.
Aside from that, back getting this train, trying to get it back on the track.
No.
What the hell is Daniel Levy doing? Or Ange? If Ange is responsible for this, one of you, like, why are you waiting till 2-3 days before the window ends to finally agree to this? Unless Harry came to them in the last few days and said, you know what, make this happen.
Well, there have been, I think, 3 separate rounds of offers from Bayern, and Daniel Levy / Spurs have been like, nope, more, nope, more, nope, more. And then we finally hit that magic number of 9 figures to the left of the decimal place, and Daniel Levy's like, okay. And they finally hit that number. Bam, I sincerely hope that Spurs do not go get Nomar because Jarrett, as our Ange Postecoglou expert here on the show, how would Ange respond if Daniel Levy wanted to get Neymar?
Ask Bam. Bam knows Ange too. He wouldn't respond well. He's not going to run. You have to run in Ange's system. You have to press. You have to counter press. You have to move without the ball a lot. There's a lot of movement in that system. Where are you going to play him? You going to play him up top? Well, guess what? The number 9 in that system has to lead the press. That's why Kyogo Furuhashi was so good at it. Like Giacomakis wasn't the perfect fit. A great fit here, but he wasn't the perfect fit because he wasn't the same kind of spark plug that you would have needed to make it work. I don't think Neymar would be that right kind of spark plug. Plus, if you spend that much money, you ruin my hopes and dreams of Neymar to MLS.
Well, and
Neymar to MLS.
Oh God! But I mean, if you think about it, and then I mean, if Neymar, if Neymar wants to go to his, if he wants to go to Carnival, as he traditionally does at PSG, where he comes up with the alleged ankle injury, and then it's like, oh, it's right in time for Carnival, and then Neymar goes and leaves PSG. PSG, by the way, has told an ish ton of folks, you're not in our plans. I mean, literally, like Neymar, Verratti, you're not even in the team photo. That's what's going on right now. You're not even in the team photo. They took a team photo and like maybe 7 players were in it because they have 5 folks that they're like, you're not in our plans. Don't be in the photo. Neymar and Verratti were 2 of them. But, yeah, I mean, that time of year when Neymar wants to go to Carnival and PSG would let him go, and it's like, yeah, he's got an ankle injury. He's out for a couple of weeks. Be safe, Knicks. That the first time that Ange would have to hear something like that, I mean, Ange would probably be like, dude, you want to go to Carnival? You're going to stay. You're staying at Carnival. It would be the fastest tenure for one of the most expensive purchases that Spurs could have ever made. Ricky, not wrong. Yeah, and Mbappe was on that list too, 4 card. Yeah. Ricky, PSG is a circus disguised as a football club. Not wrong. Not wrong at this point. But right now, Harry Kane has a decision to make.
I want to know who decided to do it this late in the window.
I know. I think it was just, it's like, we're going to get it done. Kane wants to go. Kane wants to go. Kane wants to go. Keep offering, keep offering, keep offering, and then I'll eventually say yes. And you know, hey, the season starts tomorrow in the Premier League with Burnley and Manchester City, the Vincent Kompany.
And we were here 2 years ago having these discussions about, like, sell Kane. Just go and do it. Rip the Band-Aid off. Rebuild this thing.
Yeah.
Instead, where did Spurs finish at the table last year?
Hang on just a second. You had to ask me that.
Uh-huh.
I want to say
fourth in the table.
Fourth.
Still good.
Yeah.
Behind Chelsea.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's 2021, 22.
Whoops.
That's the wrong year.
Hang on.
They finished 8th. They finished outside of Europe.
Yeah, it was not.
Because Aston Villa got over them for a European spot.
Right.
They finished just ahead of Brentford.
Yeah.
So, great job, everybody.
Yeah.
But just rip the Band-Aid off.
Mm-hmm.
Just go and do it. Because let's be honest, you're not challenging.
No, you're not.
City. You're not challenging Arsenal.
Nope.
Nope. You're not really challenging, Newcastle or United.
No,
so
you're not.
Don't be the Atlanta Hawks sitting there on the edge of Europe with no ability to rise above.
Yeah, I mean,
don't be the Hawks to Spurs.
Think about last year, Manchester. Excuse me. City, Arsenal, United, Newcastle, Liverpool. You're not going to be better than them. And then when you have Brighton and Villa jump over you at the end of it all, I mean, Spurs lose 3 of their last 5, lose 3 of their last 4. Villa lost 2 in a row and still finished above them. It's madness, I tell you. But yeah, you needed to sell Kane and Son a long time ago. And since it is 9:30-ish, we're 30 minutes into the show. Bart is back.
We're talking trash about Tottenham. I came in at the right time.
Yeah.
Hello, Bart.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, because it appears that teams have agreed to terms on the Harry Kane transfer. It looks like it's going to total up to 100 with add-ons like 86 and 14. And it appears that if Harry Kane gives the official okie doke check mark signing the bottom of the contract, okay, check yes or no. If Harry Kane checks yes, he's heading to Bayern, and Daniel Levy gets $86 million to try and figure out what to do for an 8th place club.
Well, if this does happen, good news for Dortmund. They might actually win a trophy now.
See, Bart's just firing off. See, Bart has not Bart's been on the show, but it was in a it was in a vein of the Women's World Cup, and now that he's back on this side of the planet where everything is on the table, since we were waiting to talk about stuff, Harry Kane comes across. Thibaut Courtois apparently has ruptured his ACL. Real Madrid's going to be looking for keepers. We've had some other deals.
Joe Hart's sitting right there in Glasgow doing nothing. Well, doing nothing well.
I was going to say, he's wearing a cap consistently, and apparently he can't see through it.
He is.
I didn't know there was that much sunshine in Scotland, but good for him.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on where you are. You get some areas of Scotland that are quite lovely, and you get some areas of Scotland that are just grim. But also, low-key, Celtics going to be really fun to watch this year because they're going to score a lot of goals with Brendan Rodgers. But Joe Hart's not a good keeper anymore. They're going to be playing some 4-3 games. It's going to be amazing.
Mm-hmm. Bart, we wanted to bring you in this morning to talk about the Women's World Cup more in depth because you got to do the Soccer for US PODs down here when I think you had probably moments to breathe, and all of your vacation mates were sitting there going, "Dude, what are you doing? You're down here." Am I wrong in my assessment?
You weren't wrong. I had to find times where it was like, okay, we're not doing anything. Let me escape for 20, 30 minutes.
Well, and that's what I figured was going on. Now that you are back on this side of the planet, we have the opportunity to sit there and discuss everything from a larger perspective.
I'm back in this hemisphere, so that's a plus.
Yes, that is true. Lauren James gets 2, and she didn't get 3. She got 1 + 1 for the.
Well, she was sorry, so.
Well, and you had folks who were, standing up for her and all these kinds of things.
I will say that the actual force used was not that terrible, but it was a bad, it was bad. But it wasn't like she fully just came down and stomped on her.
And so, now the whole idea, the initial thoughts were is like, for all intents and purposes, she'd be out for the remainder of the tournament. But now, with this being a 2, she could be back for a possible finals appearance. And I think that the overlords did not wish to have that kind of a specter hanging over a possible championship game idea, I think.
Yeah, and I do think that she was rescued a little bit by that because you don't want something like this to impact the final, especially something so far away from the final. It's not like this happened in the semi, so I understand. I don't think it would. It's nice that they gave her more than 1. 3 could have been a little excessive. It's fine. I think it sends the right message that don't do this. So I think we're okay.
It'd be funnier if they lose in the next round.
Yeah.
What I mean.
Giving the galactic finger wag of don't do this. Yeah. When we look at the tournament to this point, I guess we'll go ahead and start with the idea of all those big guns that, are not here.
Yeah.
Outside of the United States, because I know that when we discuss the U.S., it'll be its own topic of conversation, and we'll probably go from now until Niko joins us at 10:30. No Canada, no Germany, no Brazil, at least to start things off. We can look at each of those 3 squads and sit there and go, okay, we know a surface reason why. With, Germany, you just didn't get it done in an elimination game when we can talk about a debutante that came up and proverbially bit them and sent them away. Canada, with everything hanging over their heads, everything we've talked about with CSB on the field, the fact that they had no offense outside of wanting to feed Christine Sinclair. And it's like, okay, who's going to be a secondary scorer? And everybody kind of went back through the hedge and did the Simpsons gif where Homer just kind of drifts back into the hedge and no one shows up. And then Brazil, obviously, we talk about moments and we talk about these teams. I think those 3 are once again examples of the world and the groups themselves that they were in closing in on each other, where, you still have a lot of gaps in some spots, but the world is closing on each other when it comes to ability.
I think your point of the world's closing in is valid. I think the world has caught up to the U.S. is a little exaggerated in the sense that the world means like 5 teams, 10 teams maybe. But that applies to both Canada, Brazil, and Germany, where the margin for error is greatly reduced.
Yeah,
and
right.
I think that's a good thing. Again, people keep saying this like, oh my goodness, the world has caught up. And it's like, that's a good thing. That's an overall positive. You have more players playing in professional leagues around the world, not just from those countries. You know, we see a lot of Nigerian players playing professionally. We see a lot of Irish players playing professionally. We see a lot of Moroccan players finally getting the support that they need from their federation. So those are positives, and it does reduce the margin for error for all these top teams because, you know, when you're Canada and you score 2 goals all tournament, you fail to beat Nigeria in your opener, which would have been the step forward. You know, you're going to have problems. And then you go out and lose 4-0 to Australia. That's not great either. You know, Brazil, I don't think played poorly, but you didn't beat Jamaica, which you needed to do. You know, you lost to France. I don't think that's like a surprise to anyone. But again, that margin for error was you didn't beat Jamaica. Now, for Germany, as much as people want to talk about the fall of the U.S. women, the Germany women, I'm sorry, this is embarrassing for them because you beat Morocco 6-0 and you still didn't get out of the group over them. You lost to a South Korea side who hadn't scored a goal the entire tournament. No, sorry, you tied a South Korea side. My bad. It felt like a loss. But still, they had given up several goals during the tournament. They had lost without scoring 2 games in a row, and you let them draw you 1-1. I think more needs to be looked at at the German national team than the U.S. women, because we can easily identify the problems that occurred with the U.S. women's national team. We all know that one of those big problems was the coach. If you're going to tell me the coaching was the issue for Germany, okay, we could talk about that. But the team as a whole not being able to get the job done against South Korea is a big problem. That's a red flag bigger than anything the U.S. has seen.
Jarrett, go for it.
Okay, I want to change. Gears here. We can go back to this in a minute. I've been wanting to ask you about this because you were gone, and while you were gone, I need you to know the universe has spited you, because I don't know how much you have been able to keep up with the absolute meth lab that is Leagues Cup.
Well, I had homework to catch up on some of it, and I did last night. So,
oh my God, this is the greatest stupid tournament that's ever existed. That was before Nashville lost a penalty shootout. People stormed the field, and then they had to come back and win it.
Yeah, and we're going to be getting into that as a part of this discussion.
I'm convinced this happened because you didn't like the concept of it. The universe went.
I still don't like the concept of it. I still think it's stupid as hell.
See, and that's how
Bart doesn't like this, so we're going to make it a thing.
Yeah, so that's how fired up Bart is about it. As he turned Hades into a 2-syllable word.
Yeah.
Literally, when folks south of the Mason-Dixon line are really fired up about something or really mad about something, they add syllables.
The syllables have been added for this. It's not even that I'm fired up about it in terms of it's just stupid. And it's proven to be. Look, I think the goals have been achieved, right? MLS is playing a lot of soccer games against league. They're beating them in a lot of cases because of a lot of rules that have been put in place to give them massive advantages. And Leo Messi is getting everything put in place for him to look good and possibly make CONCACAF Champions League next year. So congrats, MLS. You are achieving the goals you set when you started this tournament.
All right. So since we are in the Leagues Cup portion of the program, Bam does have a question about Women's World Cup. We'll get into that. And Ricky does make the point. Rules that Liga MX agreed to, by the way.
Let's be honest, they wanted the money.
The rules of engagement, that is true.
Which is fine.
Coco, the goal has been achieved. MLS is being talked about. Teams are putting on a good show. MLS is feeling sad, which is always good.
Are the teams putting on a good show, or are they putting on an entertaining show? Because those are two different adjectives.
Well, let's see. I would say, Jarrett, would you say that, FCD and Inter Messi was good or entertaining? I would say both. It had elements of both. He
Jarrett,
dropped
where'd you
off.
go?
He dropped off. When good, and Coco, good and entertaining are different, and both are happening, according to Coco. Like I said, I think both are happening. You end up with a matchup in Dallas where Dallas's speed exposes Inter Messi CF's backline, which we know it exists. It is an issue.
Yeah.
It's in a Leagues Cup format. Alan Velasco goes nuts, as he should. And then you have, well, Bam says it's so bad, it's amazing. Then what you have is the idea of no lead is safe, especially when Miami is just going to be like, all right, F it, we're going to put everything forward. Messi's going to be Messi. Don't foul him. You foul him, this is what happens. All of these different kinds of things going on. So I think that you can be both good. It can be both a good show and an entertaining show, and sometimes you do get both.
Which, again, is the goal of this tournament. It is supposed to be putting MLS up against Liga MX, trying to give a different type of competition to the consumer. It's clearly winning eyeballs, especially when Messi plays. I'm not entirely sure that it's winning a whole lot of butts and seats when Messi isn't playing.
Outside of DRVP and K.
That was my disappointment, John, watching the games that I had to watch last night. Was these stadiums weren't quite full. But granted, I thought Nashville had the greatest fan base ever, and they sold out every match they played in that stadium. But what do I know? It has been entertaining, and I think that is better than being good. That's just my personal opinion, especially as you're talking about, Fox buying the rights to the Saudi Arabian League so they can continue to be the mouthpiece for sports watching. But
I saw that and I'm like, yeah, that's not surprising.
You would rather an entertaining product, because I think that's something that the Premier League has over, especially La Liga, and especially when it comes to Serie A, is that it's entertaining. It is probably better than all of the other leagues, but it's definitely more entertaining to watch. I would say Bundesliga is still very entertaining because there's a ton of goals. But would you rather have an entertaining product or a good product? And I think you're getting both. It's good. The play has been good, but more importantly, the play has been entertaining. And that's more important
for a first year tournament cup TV program. That's what you want. You want your television program to be entertaining, to draw the casual eyeballs in for season one. When you get to season 2, season 3, season 4, how many times can Rachel and Ross sit there and say, we're in a relationship, we're not in a relationship, we're on a break, we're dating other people. Hey, who is the?
They were on a break.
They were. But that's the thing. It's like, okay, eventually by the end of the series, we know they're going to get back together. But how many breaks can you have, and how many different guys can you date? So that's the whole thing. When the script writers get into seasons 2, 3, and 4, then you've got to figure out how to advance the plot. This season, it is the hit. It is a hit TV program. It's entertaining. People are watching. Apple is happy. Messi's bank account's going to be happy, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
Coco says that the WWE is a perfect example how a good thing can be entertaining and not be good. A lot of that, once again, comes down to the writing. There are some plots that are very good and well written. Example with the Usos and Roman Reigns. Well done plot line in its 3rd season. Doing very, very well. How many more different plot lines can we come up with? Don't know. But there are a lot of other things where you're going, come on, get on with it. So that's where we are. Reffing down here. Since you went to Leagues Cup, let's go to reffing down here.
Let's do it.
As of yesterday, when you were here and I was trying to reacclimate you to being on the show in a normal time zone and a normal format, there were 2 homework assignments you had. And one of them had to do with the bumper cars car crash that the last 20 minutes of Philadelphia and Red Bulls were, and the other had to do with the tail end of Nashville and Club America when the match was over, but it's not over. Which one do you want to start with first?
Well, let's start with the Nashville one because I think it is a little bit easier to at least talk about because
Go
there's
for
only one real incident, right?
Yeah,
The
right.
incident of, okay, why didn't we? Why? I think the question I have is why wasn't the VAR check more quickly communicated? Because in theory, VAR is looking at every single penalty kick in this situation to make sure that everything is kosher, right?
Right.
Especially in this situation, you're really only looking for is the goalkeeper on their line when the kick is taken. It was very clear he wasn't. You needed to watch it once and be like, oh yeah, he's not on the line. So I think that's kind of my issue is why was that not communicated earlier?
And
Because
I think it might be a public safety issue. And
I think that would have aided in the public safety efforts. If you
Uh-huh.
would have blown your whistle and said, ho, 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 I'm, giving the signal type of thing, hold your hand up to your ear and say, I'm checking. That would have alerted the players because the players were very confused as well. And yeah, I think the other issue is that there were field, they weren't streakers, but they were definitely invaders, if you will,
pitch invaders.
multiple times throughout this match. So that is an issue in itself. And I would wonder what Geodis Park is doing. I've seen stricter lines held at the bars down on Broadway than I did at Geodis Park. So that to me is the bigger issue. And I think, again, had the referee communicated the game is not over, we're checking this, would have helped with the whole situation. And so to me, that's the issue, is that was something that should be communicated very quickly of like, okay, hold on, let's check this, put your hand up to your ear and extend the arm and just say, whoa, let's chill, we're checking. Yeah. Because, any save, you're going to need to look at that. And I think players need to understand that too. It's like, hey, it's not over until I blow my whistle 3 times and go, yeah, it's over. But yeah, I think the restart for sure was a public safety issue. That was okay, well, we got to get these people off the field. We got to stop Club America fans from filming stuff on the field.
Good luck with that.
We've got to stop Club America fans from getting onto the field. And that's the other takeaway I have about Leagues Cup, but we'll get to that in a second. I do fault the referee for just not making that known quicker so that teams, fans would have understood the situation and hopefully not acted the way they did.
And as I said, the video is out there. Nashville, after the restart and the eventual win, Jonah Dos Santos hits the crossbar, Daniel Lovitz puts it in, and when you thought you lost, you won. Nashville took a while because of the layout at Geodis. The press box is basically, if you're staring at it from a television camera perspective, it's off to your right and in the corner toward the corner flag. That's where the press box is. That is the runway and the exit and the entrance that Nashville's players use to get to their locker room. It's in that corner, and the Club America fans in the upper deck were in that corner. So they waited for a while, and then when they decided to make the mad dash to go down the tunnel, you see this cascade of stuff that was purchased at probably astronomical rates just being thrown onto the field as you're trying to hit Nashville players as they're coming down as they're heading down to the runway. So, Club America fans were there, spent a lot of money, and threw a lot of it on the field as Nashville, lost, won, and then tried to exit after a long time.
Yeah, it's sad, and it's not the first time we've seen this during Leagues Cup. It's certainly not the first time we've seen this when a Mexican team plays here in the United States. This is the concern I have with this tournament as a whole, because we've seen these issues arise for the Mexican national team playing here in the States when something doesn't quite go their way, and they act like complete fools. They act like they have never been to a soccer game before and don't know how to act. This is something that we've talked about a lot on the show. How do you deal with this? And I've always proposed, like, maybe you just don't allow L3 to play in the States for a while, force them to actually play home games inside their country. And, you know, the issue, again, is these fans are continuing to do it without any real threat of repercussion. Yeah, Michael, that's a lot. Like, they disposed of a lot of money. The beer at Joda's is expensive because everything in Nashville is expensive because it's, you
got to pay for a $300 million stadium.
Everything's fake there anyway, so they got to pay.
Wow. Drop the hammer.
As someone who goes to Nashville regularly, I have nothing against the city. It's just all, it's all glitz and glamour with no real substance.
But once again,
as Dolly Parton says, it takes a lot of money to look this cheap.
Yeah, and I think the larger issue here is something that Major League Soccer franchises and stadia will have to look at as we get into season 2 and season 3 of Leagues Cup, and to greater degrees if you want to host international events. How do you handle the security issues?
Yes.
That are attached and associated with all of these different activities? And I mean, Abby has mentioned what happened with the Cruz Azul match at Mercedes-Benz, where they got smoke in the building. They somehow got smoke in the building, and the smoke ended up in the press box, and Mike Close can vouch for that. And it is a security thing that I think after this tournament's over, you're going to have to look at it and go, okay, what do we need to do to make sure that these matches are as safe for fellow fans across the board? Because it is not just the Liga MX fans that have shown themselves to do things you shouldn't as fans, but how do we make this an experience for the fan that is there to enjoy the match regardless of who they're supporting? And how do we take care of business when things go off the rails and you have to manage what's going on and monitor what's going on to make sure that it is as safe an experience as possible?
And that's going to be the struggle as you continue with Liga MX's teams playing here, because this isn't, we don't see this type of widespread bad behavior from MLS fans.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can shift to bad behavior from teams in MLS because that is what we saw in the Red Bulls and
go for
Philly
it.
Game.
Excellent shift there as we get to the top of the
But I think that's going to be the struggle as you go forward, is how do you control visiting fans who are quite numerous. But yeah, that Red Bulls Philly game was just, to me, I kept watching it and I go, yeah, this makes sense. You've got Red Bulls and Philly in a game that means something. It's more than just a regular season game. We're talking a knockout round game, and they acted appropriately. Well, they acted not appropriately, accordingly. Let's just put it that way.
Mm-hmm. And when you look at that, then you look at what happened on the field. The Philadelphia and Red Bulls, to say that Philadelphia and Red Bulls were Philadelphia and Red Bulls is not a surprise, should not be a shock, but even this version of Philadelphia and Red Bulls was seemingly, for me, it was another level entirely. And was it in your view, as you were monitoring your second homework assignment, was it an instance where the officiating crew and center ref just let it go for that last 20, saying, okay, we're going to see who survives this version of Thunderdome? Or was it a loss of control?
Yes.
Choice D, all the above.
I think the problem that I noticed is the referee was a little inconsistent with how tight he called the match throughout the match. There came a point about the 65th minute to me where it was very clear that both teams were less interested in playing soccer against each other than they were like kicking each other.
Yeah.
The incident that before the yellow card to
Kai Wagner yellow,
where you had an incident at the other end, which I don't think was a foul on either player, to be clear. It's just one of those, as a referee, you got to go, all right, boys, what are we doing here? Let's play soccer. Because those things can kind of stack up on each other and frustration builds. And if you don't take a time to address it, then you're going to have a problem. So you have that incident, then you have another, foul that Philly thought they should get, because Philly's never, ever, they always think that everything should be a foul against them. But I don't want to turn this into a Philly.
Except when they're doing the fouling, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So you had two incidents leading up to the Wagner, which was absolutely a foul and absolutely a yellow card, but you had two incidents that could have been fouls.
Mm-hmm.
And it took the ref a little bit of time to go, oh, I need to call this a little tighter. We as referees need to be aware. It's hard to be super proactive, but you need to be quicker to respond to the very clear way the match is moving, right? And I think we went from trying to compete for soccer balls, trying to compete for aerial duels and everything, to we're just trying to get at each other. You have a bully playing a pest, and that's what's going to happen, and that was something that I don't think the referee responded well to. And part of that is this ref is from Liga MX. Mm-hmm. He may not fully understand the way that these two teams play,
or if you have an equivalent in Liga MX with,
I don't know the league well enough to say you do,
Well, I mean, if he's center F, and if it's for a rivalry, if it's like,
yeah, I mean, you should be aware that if you're doing a Cruz Azul Club America match, like it's going to be, it's going to be bitter. If you're doing a Club America Chivas match, you're not getting teams that like each other, because of history. But the referee did lose control, on top of the fact that you had two teams who, in that point, were less focused on the soccering than they were, trying to kick each other.
Right. And that literally that last 25 minutes to me just seemed
it was crazy. And again, it came from the referee saying not setting the bar. He didn't move the bar, which you're allowed to do in the soccer game. You're allowed to raise the bar or lower your bar of what is a foul and what isn't. He needed to lower his bar of what was a foul, but he didn't. He did it, but then he kind of didn't. And then he did it again, and then he didn't. And so he needed to be, once he set that line, he really needed to kind of hold it, because the players weren't able to fully, they responded for a little bit, and then things got let go, and then they ramped it back up again, and then he tried to set it again, and it's just really hard to gain control once you've lost it.
Yeah, and I think that's the key here in all of this. At least one of the lessons in this week's version of Reffing Down Here is not setting a bar is a dangerous thing when it comes to the movements in a match when you have two teams that don't like each other anyway. If you have a bar that is set, and then while it's okay to adjust the bar, if you have a bar and then you just kind of sit there and go, you know what, and just, you kind of let the last 25 go, and you're going to sit there and go, okay, sort it out amongst yourselves. I'll get back to you. But it's just the uneven nature of letting things go or calling a foul. It was all over the place in that last 25, where folks were kicking each other, hip tosses, hip checks, all these kinds of things. It was once again getting back to that notion of good versus entertaining. For the neutral, it was entertaining because it was a car crash, but it wasn't necessarily all that good.
Right. And that's, again, the referee needed to be more aware of the problems before they occurred. I want to address a couple of things going on in the chat right now.
Sure.
Two things. One, philosophy and tactics are definitely two different things. We're not going to adjust our philosophy. We could adjust tactics a little bit to beat Red Bulls, I agree, but we did beat them this year. So, and we did adjust our tactics a little bit to beat them. But the other thing is, Philly doesn't seem to have a problem with A, winning on the road, or B, beating Red Bulls, because they're a better team right now than Atlanta United is. Atlanta United has been driven into the ground by bad roster management for the past 4 years. Like, Philly hasn't. Philly has built their roster according to the way they want to play.
And when you get a lead on the road, it is not your prerogative to go back and play how you did up until that point of that lead becoming part of the match in and of itself. If a game is even, goalless, what have you, you're going to have the two philosophies and the two tactic sets going back and forth. If a team gets a lead that plays the way that Philly does or plays the way that Red Bulls do,
Right.
then it is not incumbent upon them to go back to how they played to the point of that advantage being taken. They can basically sit there, pack it in, do whatever, frustrate the ever-loving ish out of you because they don't have anything else to do anymore. They've got the lead, and it's up to the opposition to figure out how to counter the other team not wanting to engage, because at that moment they've got the 3 points and they can just get out of town if they just maintain, frustrate, and make sure that they can get to 45.
And that's something that Atlanta United doesn't do well, to be frank. We don't sit on leads well. And we've seen that a lot this year, giving up a ton of leads. I mean, we should have beat Toronto up in Toronto. Probably could have beat Chicago. Should have beat Chicago. They were down a man, and then we decided to also be down a man. So 100%, John. Like, we do not do that. But we don't need to talk about that right now because I could rant a lot about Atlanta United and poor decisions both on the field and from a roster perspective. But, point is, yeah, Philly, Red Bulls, they play a style of play that, and let's not pretend like Red Bull's been successful this year. First off, they haven't been. They haven't been good for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So, we do also, Emilio, we do get leads on the road plenty of time. We just also give them up very easily. These two teams are teams that, like I said, one's a bully and one is a pest. You can figure out which one is which.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a clear identity of how they want to play. A lot of that hasn't nothing to do with actually playing with the ball, to be quite honest. And that is easier to adapt, to adjust than how you're playing with the ball at your feet or tactically in spaces. So, Atlanta United from the start, even when we had our old Atlanta United and we were winning a lot of games and scoring a bunch of goals, struggled to win on the road, struggled to beat Philly, struggled to beat Red Bulls.
And like I said, and I will maintain that in the overall, this is not just an Atlanta United thing. Winning on the road in Major League Soccer, I don't have the numbers in front of me last year. I mean, for this year.
We also are particularly inept at it, though, John.
Well, but the thing is, winning in Major League Soccer across the board happens 2 out of every 7 on average. It comes at about a 27 or a 28% clip. And I know that those of us here in this footprint have the evidence that is in front of us as a part of the larger example. But on the whole, last year in Major League Soccer, regardless of who we're talking about, and I know, like I said, the fact that we are based here in Atlanta, we discuss it from that prism. But across the board, on average, last season, 2 out of every 7 games were won by the away team. But when you have a bully and when you have a pest who believe the ball has cooties and they get a lead, it feeds into who they are anyway. It amplifies who they are. And so they play that way. That's who they are. Then, whatever. But winning on the road across the board is extremely difficult in Major League Soccer. There you go.
Let's talk about other frustrating things.
Sure. Well, is there something else frustrating about World Cup or reffing down here?
But we can talk about the World Cup now.
Okay.
I think we haven't fully addressed the U.S. women in a while.
So. No, we have not, because I know that I wanted to get into the discussion about debutantes and first-timers and Morocco and Jamaica and South Africa and Nigeria.
Okay, first off, let's break these into different. Morocco got very lucky. I mean, I'm not trying to take anything away from them. I'm not. They got very lucky that Germany didn't get any sort of job done against Korea. They're very lucky that they scored the goal they did against Colombia, and Colombia was just like, whatever. They got lucky. They were a team that did not look like they belonged in the knockout rounds. They got lucky. Sorry.
Wow. Bam.
However, let's talk about Nigeria. Let's talk about South Africa, because they look like teams very well coached with lots of talent who hopefully can use this as a stepping stone. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing that I took from this tournament is if you invest a little bit in your women's team, you're probably going to see a return on investment. Look at Colombia, who has been my favorite team at the tournament. They are the most fun team to watch. Their fans are great. Their team is playing well. They've got legitimate talent, and not just Caicedo, but they've got a fantastic center forward. They've got great left back. They've got 2 center backs who are playing outside of their mind. They've got a goalkeeper who is very South American. Let's just put it that way. She's good, but she's also very South American, and I love it. She plays like a lot of South American goalkeepers we've seen. It is definitely something that you can take from this tournament, that the lower ranked teams have more talent now than they ever have. It used to be you had one player and that was it. They've got a bunch of players on their teams right now, and that's overall a huge positive. And I think, listen, I'm sure we'll have conversations about who the next coach of the U.S. women's national team should be. There are some coaches from some African nations that I would say we should probably hire them. That's all I'm saying. You
want to bring in that Texan Randy Waldrum? I know you.
Well, I want to get away from Pitt. I want to rescue the man. But also, I think that both South Africa played a style that looked like something the U.S. could and should play. I'll just put it that way, because they were direct, which I think the U.S. women are going to need to always be. I think that was the biggest flaw that Vlatko had for me, is we tried to be a little bit more possession-based. That never really worked. So then we tried to, we didn't really commit to being a full-on direct style of play team, which we still can do. And we saw how it was actually still effective against Sweden, especially when you had Lynn Williams going against their left back, who was slow and not very good. We never really committed to it, but when we did, also, it wasn't with the same precision that we did against, like we saw with South Africa, who was very good at creating counterattacks against Netherlands, and probably should have gotten a goal out of that game. The Dutch goalkeeper played incredibly well. But also, I look at a team like Japan did against Spain, where, they sat back, defended, and said, we'll beat you on the counter. And it's like, why couldn't the U.S. have just said, we can do this? Because I think the issue that I had with this team is people were blaming Vlatko, rightfully so, for the lack of tactical setup and nuance and intelligence. These same people watched Jill Ellis's teams for the past 8 years, right? Because she was not exactly some tactical genius. In fact, watching back a lot of the goals we scored in 2019, they're mostly just a bunch of crosses that we headed in. So I think, to me, that, again, that's maybe the U.S. isn't set up to play this beautiful possession style of soccer, right? And that's okay. We have talent in certain positions where beautiful attacking talent or attacking soccer may not necessarily happen, but explosive, dynamic, individual moments can happen. And I never thought that this team was set up to play in the way that maximized each player's individual talent as well as the team as a whole's talent.
Hang on just a second. Before we continue our discussion here, I've got to do this. It appears, according to our friends at Sky has been told it's looking increasingly likely like Harry Kane will stay at Spurs, despite agreeing to the £100 million fee with Bayern for the transfer of the players. It appears Harry Kane...
look, as an Arsenal fan, I love this for them.
Harry Kane may stay. Oh.
As an Arsenal fan, I love this for Tottenham.
Oh, man. Oh, no. All right. But yeah, that's according to our friends at Sky, that they're doing the Harry Kane o'clock reporting. But yeah, as the window's closing, Harry Kane looks like he might be staying. Bart continues with whatever point where we were talking the U.S. Women's national team, Vlatko, philosophy, tactics, etc.
My point is, I think that my overall point is, yes, the world has caught up to us, and that's a good thing. I think the world has more talent in it. That is a good thing. But I think where we're seeing the U.S. fall most behind is our coaching sucked. And we haven't had great coaching for a while. I think Jill Ellis was a better coach than Vlatko in terms of getting her team ready to play. But it also is really frustrating because there's this revisionist history that Vlatko was the bad choice from the start. And when we hired Vlatko, he was the right choice. I think that's the thing, is that he was the best. If you were trying to find a coach within the U.S., Vlatko was the best choice. Especially because I was one advocating for Paul Riley, and we could see how that could have turned out. Clearly there's a reason why he wasn't really looked at.
Yeah.
But, people are like, oh, we should have hired Laura Harvey, who at that point in time hadn't really won anything in NWSL, and still hasn't really won anything in NWSL. Vlatko at the time was a good choice. But the problem is, and this leads me to the next point, is he very clearly showed us that he wasn't getting the best out of the team. Now, I never, especially after the Spain and England matches in the fall last year, you could have fired him then. I don't think it would have been the best choice because I don't think there were a lot of good coaches available. Again, people always want to point to Laura Harvey. I think she would have done better just because I think a lot of people would have done better than Vlatko, but it's not like there was a slam dunk. Oh yeah, Serena Viekman was not available, right? Even a guy like, well, at that point, Mark Parsons was available, but he came on and coached an NWSL team. Randy Waldron was clearly taken. It wasn't like there was a person ready to step in. So the problem, though, is that we saw this back in 2021 after the Olympics. But we thought, okay, get rid of the old guard, which he didn't quite do fully. Get rid of the old guard, and maybe we'll have more success. He brought in a lot of younger players. He tried some new players, which is good. But overall, he just never got the best out of this team. And the program as a whole, we've talked about bad youth World Cup performances, which I'm never really concerned about the actual finish as I am the performance. The performances were hit and miss. Part of that, I think, was due to coaching. And I thought we had bad coaching. Tracy Kevins is a terrible coach and does not need to be anywhere involved with this program. She proved that in 2021, I guess, whatever not this most recent women's Youth World Cup was.
I was going to say, so for those that don't know Tracy's CV, explain who she is here in college.
So Tracy Kevins was the coach of the U20 women's national team for the past 2 cycles. And remember, they have 2-year cycles. I need to look it up. I forget which year it was. So I get my dates correct.
Absolutely.
So 2022 was Costa Rica. She was the coach. She was also the coach in 2018. That sounds right. Yeah. So she coached our U20s, which is a very important time. Now, granted, I will say that the U20s, it's not like we've ever had the best U20 talent there, because we have actually some players playing professionally, and that was good. They weren't going to leave their professional season to go to a U20 World Cup. But she was the coach of the teams that, quite honestly, failed to capitalize on the talent they had. So you have 2 coaches in the program who don't maximize the talent they have on the field. Who is the person deciding to keep these coaches on? It's Kate Markgraf. And I think that's the person who also needs to be held accountable. And I'm sorry, I know we're not allowed to really criticize women in positions of power in women's soccer, but Kate Markgraf has let this program down by keeping coaches who are underperforming employed. Now, again, I don't know necessarily that you should have fired Vlatko immediately after the 2021 Olympics because, but it was very clear that Vlatko wasn't going to win a World Cup with these teams. And that's okay. But again, the fact that she kept Tracy Kevins around, it to me is a red flag that she's not fully capable of making changes that need to be made. Kate Markgraf isn't. So Vlatko needs to be fired. I'm a little concerned that he hasn't been fired yet, to be quite honest. I think that's a no-brainer.
I think what you also don't want to do, I think that me, I'm not a fan of multi-cycle coaches in the first place.
Absolutely not.
But I think what you also don't want to do is do it during the world tournament. I think once the world tournament is over, then you can sit there, because it is such a high profile position. Everyone's eyes are on the United States in some circles. And like I said, and I'm treating this as a defensive driving course. So bear with me. You're treating this you don't want to get continued knee-jerk reactions publicly if you do something this immediate, because we all live in instant gratification, immediacy, all those kinds of things, regardless of what we're talking about in our lives. And like I said, I'm playing devil's advocate here. I have no basis of knowledge of any of this, but thinking this through as you're walking through it, I think you wait until after the tournament is over, then you make the announcement, because if you make the announcement in tournament, the emotions that are already there get amplified that much more, and you're losing focus on a bunch of other things where folks are already mad. We get this. You didn't make it through in penalties, which is one of the cruelest things that you could ever do anyway, and a listener's a badass, and we know this. But I think what you end up doing if you make the immediate announcement, and that's why they put out that one paragraph essay saying that, at the end of it, we're going to analyze and do whatever. If you do something immediately, then you sit there and it's like, oh, big gun United States, they're, rah, all those kinds of things. You want to take the emotion that's already there, let it tamp down, even though we probably already think that Vlatko is not going to get renewed or whatever the terminology is involving his contract. I think that you just amplify the emotions that are already there. If you do that reaction as immediately as it would be, considering that the U.S. hasn't even been out of the tournament for a week and the tournament itself is not over. Like I said, that's just a devil's advocate idea in all of this.
I hear what you're saying. You should have Lane Kiffin done. So.
Oh, well, there were others that should have been Kiffined in this tournament.
I hear what you're saying, John. I do. But the problem is, it's very clear. Like, the problem is you cannot have this standard. We're the U.S. women's national team. We expect to win every tournament we participate in. And you've gone 2 tournaments in a row without winning. Mm-hmm. You've gone 2 tournaments in a row where you look like crap on the field. Where you got beat by Sweden in both of these tournaments, by the way. Both of them, you got destroyed by them in the Olympics, and then you got bested by them in the knockout rounds here.
Did you see the statistical analysis of the match that the U.S. lost?
Yeah, I think that we played our best match. We outplayed. I fully understand this, John.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is someone did a statistical analysis of taking all of the elements of that match and applying it to some large mathematical equation, that the result that the United States had in the game that they were eliminated from the World Cup in a statistical analysis only happens 1% of the time.
And I understand this, but you know what we didn't do, John?
Well,
we did in advance. I don't care. Yeah. I understand what you're saying, but that's what I've been trying to say the whole tournament, right? It's okay. The numbers are good for us. We're still controlling XG. We're still all these things. We're still not getting the job done.
I know.
And it's because you have a coach who relies on a 38-year-old player who can't hit a freaking corner kick past the first defender, John. He still relies on her. He says, go in there, Megan. Go in there, Pino. Save the day, even though I know you're fully incapable of doing that. You're fully incapable of hitting a good set piece, even though we have Andy Sullivan, who the one damn good thing she's been doing this whole tournament has been serving set pieces. We're going to take her off the set piece duty, even though we've been dangerous the whole time. And we're putting in Pino, who has proven every single time she comes on this field, she can't get the set piece over the first defender. What are we doing? That's the problem here, is Vlatko Andonovski relied on players who are not good. They are not good anymore. They're old. They used to be good. They're not good anymore. And he kept going at it. Same with Alex Morgan. Bless her heart, she was playing a position in a way that she's not fully loving to do. That's fine. Alex Morgan's not the best, comeback, drop-in striker. Fine. But he forced her into this position. She's not that great at it. He could have very easily played Sophia Smith more essentially throughout the whole tournament. No, again, in that knockout round, we had to play Alex Morgan until for freaking 88 minutes, had to play her in that position and not getting the best out of the team. His stubbornness, his reluctance to actually move on. This is a program problem. We're reluctant to move on from former heroes because, they've done so much for us. They're not at that level.
Well, then let me posit this in as a part of this process. The reluctance in letting the younger players play, and there are 5, I believe, on this roster that are under the age of 22 that I'm really looking forward to.
A lot of young players.
Once you get past those younger players, I think that there's also another issue here, and it's the development of that next wave in addition to those players that are right now part of the process that are under the age of 22. Where are players 6 through 20 now? Then when it comes to having the U.S. women's national team continuing to grow, evolve, advance, get back to where they were, those kinds of things. I think that is that not also part of this issue when it comes to the development of these players, where instead of it's and also not having Katerina Macario as a part of this process, and players that are injured that you would have loved to have had as well to help out, but the development of these players to be a part of this as well, where maybe you keep a Casey Fair at home, maybe you end up, you could get a Soleil Washington to be a part of this process. Those players are now leaving to play in other countries, I guess, because they don't see the chance of cracking a lineup because of these veterans. And so how do you keep those younger players, A, at home, and B, develop them so you continue to have these new waves of players to where you have this force?
Well, first off, I just want to say that I don't think this has been a talent problem. I think that there are some development issues within U.S. soccer, but those are U.S. soccer-wide. We don't focus as much as we should on technical skills and the early stages of development as we do other things like fitness and physicality and stuff like that. But that's a separate discussion right now.
Right.
I think the fact that we have such young players is indicative of the fact that we had relied on a very specific group of players for so long, who, by the way, deserve that. Like, they were, again, Megan Rapinoe and that cohort made 3 World Cup finals in a row. Like, it's okay to accept that to acknowledge that they were very good, right? They were elite, great. 3 World Cup finals in a row. But you can't say, oh, well, it's okay. It's the World Cup. They're going to show up, when they haven't been doing that. Not everyone, Julie Ertz is probably the exception to this rule, where she somehow got herself back in shape, got herself back to playing, and she played basically every minute of this tournament at an elite level. I mean, she and Gurma were by far the 2 best players on this team. But I don't know if it's that of an issue, right? I don't know if it's development from that standpoint, because I've seen also a lot of people like, oh man, we're losing out on all these dual national battles. And it's like, well, yeah, because we have a ton of talent everywhere. I don't think we're also going to lose out on dual national battles because we have a lot of dual nationals in the U.S., specifically on the women's side. I mean, look at the Philippines team. Are any of those players going to make our national team? I don't know if they're making the senior national team. Washington, same kind of question. Is she making our team? But it does go back to development, and that's where I look at Kate Markgraf and go, how are you identifying talent? How are you bringing talent into the U.S. women's national team picture as a whole? How are you working with all the coaches to better instill an identity and a culture from the U15 up to the senior national team? And those are the questions that, again, U.S. soccer needs to get itself acquainted with. Because I do think on the men's team side, you're seeing that. I think you're seeing, I credit Tab Ramos a lot for that, of just instilling the fight, still taking the American mentality of fighting, being strong, never say die, adding some tactical framework around that, developing players a little bit technically and from a knowledge standpoint. And we've seen that as, you look at the most recent U20 men's team, sure, they didn't go as far as we would have liked them to, but they lost to a pretty darn good team and Uruguay. You can see that on the men's side, there's some sort of like cultural indoctrination from an early time. And so I'm wondering why that's not happening on the women's side, because I don't know if the talent ID part is gonna be there as we keep developing more players is we have more players who are going to say, oh, well, I can go play for this country. So you need to identify talent earlier. You need to bring them into the program earlier. And then once you get them into the program, you need to be teaching them what a U.S. women's national team player is and does. We don't need to wait for that to happen at the senior national team. Because the other thing that we forget, you look at Crystal Dunn, Julie Ertz, that age group.
Yeah.
They won a Women's Youth World Cup, right? They won in 2012, I believe it was. That set them up for great success, right? That was a key reason that in 2015, 2019 were so successful. So these Youth World Cups do matter. Again, winning isn't the goal. You would like to win. You should win the U.S. But it's how do you get them into the program, get them into the culture? And that's where I think we've been lacking on the women's side is teaching that. Because we have this idea, oh, well, it's just ingrained in the culture and the program. And it isn't. It's ingrained in the players. But how do we teach that from U17 up?
You didn't think I was going to get you this fired up your first time back in full.
I mean, I kind of figured. Look, we're talking about a team that didn't make it. This is the first time ever the U.S. women's national team has not played every single match of a tournament at a World Cup, right? First time ever we haven't placed at a Women's World Cup. We finished third, second, or first in every single World Cup dating back to 1991. Only team that's done that, right? We don't talk about, oh, well, the world has caught up to Germany or the world has caught up to Norway, who are, the other two champions who are also out, we don't have, but that's because the U.S. has won it 4 times, twice in a row. So I think I said before the tournament, John, I didn't think we'd win. I thought we had a chance to make a good run based on the bracket we had, but the bracket actually ended up being tougher on this side of the bracket than the other side because some of the teams that should have been on the other side of the bracket didn't do their job, didn't make it out of their group. And that's the other thing is, look, we're not Canada. We're not Germany. No. We're not Brazil. We advanced from the group. Mm-hmm. And whether you like it or not, we got the job done in the group, right? We should have beat Netherlands. I still think if you play that game 10 times, you win it 7 times. I don't think Netherlands, there's a scenario where they win more than 1 time. Same with that Sweden game. But the problem is we didn't give ourselves enough actual chances to score. And that's what I kept saying is we're creating good chances. We're not creating the best chances. We're not putting ourselves in the best places to score. And that, again, goes down to Vlatko and his coaching, his style of play, his tactics. We're not maximizing the opportunity we had in front of us.
And next time around, obviously, we can sit here as the story develops. We'll keep an eye on Vlatko.
And he needs to be fired. I'm sorry, John.
Well, like I said, I think it's going to happen after the tournament. I don't think it's going to happen in tournament like we see in other sports. But Bart's going to enjoy his coffee. And what's the mug this morning, by the way?
We're doing Sydney again. I'm breaking it in.
Okay, breaking in the Sydney mug. So that is at Bartimus Prime 19 at Soccer for You SPOD. And Bart, welcome back to this hemisphere. And like I said, I'm sorry I got you this fired up. Not that we would have anticipated anything.
Listen, I had a great time. It was a fantastic trip, except for watching the U.S. women play. Well, so for that, Vlatko should be fired.
Well, and Bam asks, was there a match that you didn't get to see that you would have liked?
Yeah, I would have liked, well, not necessarily a match, but I would have liked to have been able to go watch New Zealand play at home and Australia play at home. I did have a friend, Andrea, one of the capos for Atlanta United. She was with me on this trip, and she got to go see the Canada-Australia match in Brisbane. Ooh. And I would have liked to have gone to that one. I also would have liked to go to Brisbane and seen Suncorp Stadium. That would have been fun. But, yeah, I would have liked to have seen Australia or New Zealand play at home. Fortunately, didn't get to do that this time. But other than that, no, because I saw the Japan-Spain game. That was the game I wanted to watch. I saw Sweden play. I got to see most of the matches I wanted to. I got to see Colombia play. It was fun. So, yep. I went to 7 matches. Believe me, I could have done more if I didn't want to sleep. But I wanted to also enjoy the countries that I was visiting.
And make sure that if the weather cooperated, you could have gone to CN and AFL match. That would have been the other part.
That is the one regret. I wish I would have just sucked it up and done it. But I didn't want to sit in the rain for a sport that I'm not entirely sure of all the rules.
Basically, you got to bounce the ball at least every 15 yards to keep possession.
You kick it into the semicircle and hope someone catches it.
Yeah, you bounce it into the center spot, goes up in the air. You can punch it, you can kick it, you can do whatever. But when you have possession, once you catch it, they blow the whistle. Everything stops. Then you can do a quick start if you want. You can keep going. You get it between the 2 middle poles at 6 points. You get it on the outside poles, 1 and 4. It's a point each. and the guy goes either like this or like this. And so, Bart, catch your breath. We'll be going and talking more about the tournament as we go. Thanks for hanging out, my friend.
Thanks, John. Sorry to get so fired up over the.
Oh, dude, that's what we're here for. So Bart's going to continue drinking his Sydney mug, and we're going to do the hot tag. So Bart exits, and that means that it's this guy, Niko Moreno. It is time for Thursdays with Niko. And before we get into Leagues Cup madness, all the other things that are going on, we've been seeing things happening this morning overseas. And now there seems to be one player that, regrettably, is being discussed in the Twitch pitch because his current club, which could be referred to as PSG, is not doing well. And the dude is like, we don't even want you as a part of the team picture. So you, Verratti, and 3 of your other buddies, y'all go over there. We don't want you in the team photo. Everyone is discussing now the idea of Neymar to Major League Soccer. As Nancy Reagan used to say back in the 1980s, just say no. I mean, he has to be a free agent first and foremost for that to happen, because the free agency is the only way that this can happen. He is currently under contract. So literally it would have to be tearing up of a deal at PSG. Hey, you're a free agent. Then he can come to Major League Soccer. But everybody has their hands up in the air like they do care. And they're discussing this idea about Neymar. Niko, talk everybody off the ledge.
First of all, thanks for having me as always. Cup number 1 of coffee.
There you go.
Definitely something that I have mixed feelings of. I mean, I understand why fans would want someone like Neymar in this league. We've seen the Messi impact. Neymar's not Messi, but Neymar definitely brings a excitement element to the soccer field, despite off the field shenanigans. He's someone that definitely would be interesting to watch in this league. So do I think he's coming right now after the window closed? No. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think they're going to just release him for fun. So I've heard the desire from several teams to bring him on in 2024, not right now. So that could definitely happen. But yeah, I'm kind of in the middle about it. I don't want the circus that sometimes Neymar brings to everything he's on as of late, and all of the things that come around him. But you can't deny the man's quality and what he can provide in terms of stardom. And if we've learned anything from Leagues Cup, is that entertainment factor does equal more eyes on the games, more money. So it'll be interesting, quite honestly. So I'm kind of on the fence about it. I don't think I'm going to be able to talk anybody off the ledge, because I could see it perhaps happening. Again, not right now, but I think in 2024, you could see New York City FC, you could see maybe even LAFC. I mean, there are teams that would, without a doubt, be a reasonable landing spot for a guy like Neymar. But we'll see. There's also the pride factor. I think that the fact that Messi's here and he's someone that would like to have someone does endorsement and things could make it interesting, could make it fun. But there are other players who I thought were going to perhaps come here and they didn't, like James Rodriguez. So, perhaps he could still have something left in the tank to stay in Europe, or a desire to stay in Europe. Because, again, he hasn't been unbelievable as of late. He has a lot to prove from the soccer aspects. But, yeah, it's a rumor that I tend to think is very believable. Not now, but in the near future.
But when I'm gonna go ahead and be devil's advocate here on this. When you have that first slide tackle from let's say who would be
Martinez or Chara.
Well, you got Chara or Nuhu, who has no conscience. He doesn't care, and he doesn't care twice on Tuesdays. You come into his barn, and you set off the alarm. He's going to come after you with a baseball bat. I mean, that first tackle that is going to go after those ankles of Neymar's. And I mean, you may as well just plan it for the time in and around Carnival so he can take that 3-week vacation that he always takes. I mean, I look at it as tremendous imagination, a lot of baggage that you have to put up with, but I don't know if the physicality that could be expressed here in Major League Soccer would be something that he would be welcoming when it comes to his current physical status.
Yeah, there's a fair criticism, as well as the discipline. Is he going to be a guy like Lionel Messi that's going to come in and want to know everything about his teammates and will be holding the shirt of the guy who just got hurt right after the game? And is he going to have that fire in him to just completely dominate and take his team to the top? Or is he going to be someone that's going to be just looking for the spotlight and just be the man and give you 3, 4, 5 step overs and then maybe not finish in front of goal and maybe be a guy that takes it less seriously than other guys have in the past? Perhaps. I think those are fair criticisms of Neymar, but I still think that it would be interesting, exciting. And this is coming from I'm not a Neymar guy. I've never been the guy that has put him above Ronaldinho like many do. I think Ronaldinho in his prime was much better, more efficient, more productive in his short amount of time. Obviously, Neymar's had a longer career. All in all, I think that it would be interesting. And I don't think it would be a bad thing for the league, but I get the apprehensions. And I do believe that you could see a lot of that extra flopping, maybe disinterest very quickly if things aren't going his way. I mean, if you're having problems in PSG and fans are booing you at your front door, maybe here you could see something similar.
No doubt. Apparently, according to our friend Fabrizio Romano, it is Al Hilal in the Saudi Pro League and Major League Soccer allegedly, possibly, probably interested in somebody like Neymar. To some locale that is not known as PSG. Leagues Cup. And I know that I wanted to get into this discussion with you on a couple of different levels. And what we've been having to talk about this morning, is Leagues Cup good or is Leagues Cup entertaining? Even though sometimes we do get both. Is it good or is it just an entertaining show? Is it a good show or an entertaining show?
It's a good question, and it's tough to answer because if you look at the self-destruction that we've seen over the last week in terms of teams just shooting themselves in the foot.
There's the explicit rating. There you go.
Some of the own goals, some of the very wishy-washy tactics at times. You could say it's been more entertaining. But I think it has the potential to be very good. I think it's to be good. It's been okay. I think in terms of level of soccer, if you were to just sit there with a clipboard in a video room and take some notes, you might not have seen the best defending in the planet. And that goes for both sides. That goes for Liga MX teams as well as MLS sides. So all in all, even that Clásico Regiomontano between Monterrey and Tigres, that was a poor Tigres team overall. Offensive movements, possession, just plain old tracking. I mean, Monterrey could have definitely had that game if they wanted to, with a bigger advantage on the goals, but they didn't. So I would say that it's been excellent in terms of entertainment and storylines and headlines and beautiful moments that we could spend an hour discussing in this show. But I think soccer-wise, there is room for improvement. I've heard, or obviously through Felipe Cardenas, that there is maybe a thought of bringing in other teams in the future. Don Garber mentioned that maybe there's South American teams that can come in. So I think it has the potential to really grow. I see the level of improvement in terms of soccer from MLS sites as well. So I really do believe that there is room for this soccer level to be good. Right now, it's been okay, but I've been pleased. I've been entertained with it all. I mean, if you think about the logistics, look at the amount of travel that some teams have done, the amount of injuries that they've had because of so many minutes. I think that there has been a little bit of that diminished soccer play because of those things. So there is room to make it better, but I see this not going away, and I see it getting a lot better over time.
Tato Noriega, after beating Tigres, then he found out that they're having to go from Houston to L.A. and go play Friday night in the Rose Bowl in front of 11 gazillion people. Tato Noriega said this: "We are very dissatisfied, very disappointed, very worried. We have many players hurt, and that a game date is changed with all the kilometers that we have on us. Now we have to go to Los Angeles. It'll be the 5th game, while for the LAFC it will be the 3rd game. A lot of organization is needed. It is necessary to be equitable. I don't want to talk about more. If we advance after Los Angeles, I'm sure we will go to the other side of the country, specifically in this tournament. It has been very uneven. And I'm not just talking about Monterrey. I'm talking about all the Mexican teams who have suffered various setbacks as a result of injustice. There is much to improve, and hopefully they will do it because it is not good at all. I would think, or at least I would hope, that Tato Noriega, first and foremost, has that discussion with the higher-ups in charge of Liga MX who agreed to these conditions in the first place. Yeah, you guys will be in the tournament. All the matches will be played in the United States and Canada. Nothing will be played in Mexico, I imagine, because of customs and machinations and getting in and out of the country and things like that. But I would think that the first thing Noriega has to do is look to the league office and go, bruh, if this is what you're going to agree to, then, okay, we've got to prepare a little differently, say. And then at the same time, I mean, this is life in Major League Soccer. It might be a little different in Liga MX, but, I mean, you're flying from Seattle to Kansas City for a midweek, and then a weekend you've got to either be home or you're going to the Northeast. I think that it's just something that the Major League Soccer sides are used to, and that Liga MX is getting a bit of that travel wake-up call. Yeah,
so there's 2 different aspects there. One, the logistics and improvement that need to be made. I mean, we all saw Leon stuck in an airport and sleeping on the ground, right? I mean, that is shameful. That is something that should never happen in any league. So CONCACAF in general needs to do better there. Both Liga MX and Liga and MLS need to really get their stuff together when it comes to putting the correct infrastructure to make this as smooth as possible. And yes, obviously MLS teams are more accustomed to it, but I think that just the process overall needs to be better. And there's no doubt about that. And get these guys from point A to point B in a reasonable time, give them reasonable rest as well. I get that the calendar is so compact, but you really need to figure that out, because at the end of the day, these are not show monkeys. These are people, and they're individuals and professionals, and their bodies are their career and their well-being. Herman Bertamen, you saw him get hurt in Portland. You've seen so many injuries all around in this tournament, so you really need to figure that out without a doubt, and make it better. And the other part is what you just said. And Tata Martino said it in press conference, right? You guys agreed to these terms. You guys knew what this Leagues Cup was about. Everybody knew, and so you can't complain now. Complain before. Don't complain after. Once you didn't get the results, once things didn't go your way. So there's kind of both sides of that coin. But the conclusion overall is that it's inevitable and undeniable that this Leagues Cup needs to be better in terms of travel, logistics, and player care. Making sure that these guys are healthy and they're not being exposed to even more injuries.
Intermessi CF right now is in a situation where they are alive in 2 tournaments, yet in the league that they're currently playing in, they got a lot of work to do. And looking at the standings as things are, and I will ask you this. I will have you put your general manager's owner's hat on here if you were in charge of Intermessi CF. Here's my question. You're 2 wins away from winning US Open Cup. That would be September 27th. That's the last game that you would be playing if you were in the final match of Open Cup. September 27th, you have a resolution to that particular thing. You would have a resolution to Leagues Cup August 19th. We've talked about the schedule compression that Intermessi CF has, 5 matches in 15 days, including Open Cup. They've got 4-11, 5-15 at one point. If you are still, say, right now you are 12 points out of a playoff spot, but you have 2 matches in hand. If you make your hay, if you get things done, and you were to win one or both of those tournaments, meaning Leagues Cup and Open Cup, would you just be satisfied if you still have all of that work to do in the regular season, knowing that you're going into CONCACAF Champions League or whatever they're calling it now, the new version of CONCACAF Champions League, which is what your owner wants? You could be going in on 1 or 2 pieces of merit. Do you let Major League Soccer season go by the wayside, have your big 3 make their appearances, just kind of sit there and wave everybody and go hi, put in 20 minutes and let everything go? Or do you still chase after that third one if you've already got 2 in the bank and you're going to be playing in CONCACAF activity after September 27th?
Yeah, that's an interesting discussion. Is one that we've had with a lot of media members on the phone, on the training field here. And I'm of the thought process that I don't want the wheels of this bus to come off if I push my luck, if I push the miles and the time that these players are putting on the field. I don't need damaged goods, and I definitely don't need Messi hurting himself, and I don't need Busquets with ACL tear or a major strain, and I don't need Alba hurt either. So because of the calendar, because of how closely these things will happen for Miami, and the fact that I think at this point in time, they're also playing with house money in Leagues Cup. I don't think anybody thought that they were going to be this far in, to be quite frank. And maybe the only people that in their dreams had so many headlines and so many Hollywood moments and this movie that has been Inter Miami FC, CF in this Leagues Cup is Jorge Mas and David Beckham and all that group. But in general, I think that they are going to put all their chips into Open Cup, get that title, put it on their belt. That's what they're going to hang their hat on. They're going to get as far as they can in this Leagues Cup, and perhaps that level of interest and importance has closed a margin with Open Cup. That was your easy title to get because of the amount of games that you have to get that title. But I think because of the global aspect and all of the attention worldwide that they're getting in this cup, they're going to put it very closely. But that makes MLS an afterthought, because you cannot ask from this older group, experienced group, all of the commitment and investment that you put into bringing all these guys to potentially getting hurt. That is, for me, the most important. You got to protect the precious cargo, and the precious cargo are Messi and Bingo friends, and you need to make sure that they're okay. maybe if you get a couple of games in with some of the younger guys, Farias and Gomez and Gregory coming back and Kramaski playing as well as he has, if those guys can maybe manage to rescue some games, 3 or 4 immediately after MLS resumes, then maybe you start bringing in some of those older guys to, hey, maybe there is a little light at the end of the tunnel. We got to try to get there. But I really do believe that MLS play should be and will be an afterthought and will be in the back burner of the objectives of Miami.
Because I think that, all of what you're seeing and the probable addition of Luis Suarez, who might be a high-end AM player. He might be that third DP if they find something to do with Campagna. Something in that vein, that high AM DP-ish kind of a thing. Here's the schedule. The match with the match with Charlotte that's in the regular season has been postponed. That was supposed to be on the 20th. That one got postponed because if you're playing in a final on the 19th, it's kind of counterintuitive to do it again. You've got 3 matches in 8 days at the end of August. Open Cup on the 23rd, and that's if you finish. Say you play in the finals of Leagues Cup. You've got Charlotte. You play the winner of Philadelphia and Querétaro, and on the left-hand side of the bracket, it's LAFC, Monterrey, Nashville, and Minnesota. I think that's manageable. I think that all of those other 7 teams, I think that's manageable. Final is on the 19th. Then you would play Open Cup on the 23rd in Cincinnati. That would get you 1 win closer to getting into CONCACAF tournament. Then the 26th, it's Red Bull Arena. Then on the 30th, you're home to take on Nashville. Then you get into September, game on the 3rd, once again out in Los Angeles. Weeks apart, Miami, here in Atlanta. But then once again, it's 3 in 8 days. It's 4 in 15. Atlanta in Atlanta, Toronto in Miami, Orlando in Orlando, and home to NYC, and that gets you into October. So there are these stretches where I fear schedule compression is going to be more of your concern rather than what the turf looks like and whether or not you're going to see Messi and friends in their entirety playing, 60 minutes or whatever. I think that schedule compression is something to pay attention to here, and that's why I was leaning toward the idea of they're going to throw everything at Leagues Cup, throw everything at Open Cup, because by the time September 27th happens, it would be, once again, as a part of that 5 and 15, Atlanta hosting Toronto at Orlando, Open Cup final, and then hosting NYC at Drive Pink to get you through September. That's why I think when September's done, they've got 3 matches left in the regular season. If they're nowhere close, then they're just going to be like, we're cool, we're done. That sellout crowd in Chicago might get frustrated. The sellout crowd in Charlotte on the 21st is going to get frustrated. But I'm leaning toward winning those first 2, and then whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, we're on the same page. You literally went over in detail exactly why I have the concerns that I have.
And you got Argentina in World Cup qualifiers leading into that match in Atlanta. And I think that's 2 matches, and one of them I think is in La Paz. So good luck going to Denver times 3 and then coming back here to the States and playing, playing in MLS. I think that legitimately, I think Messi might be a cameo at Mercedes-Benz because of international competition. Thank you, Tom.
Absolutely. No, and that's a fantastic point. All in all, I think we have all come to the conclusion in this fantastic show. And thank you, everybody, for watching, and my guy, John, for bringing it up. But that's literally it. It's going to be – MLS is going to be an afterthought. And if you think about what Beckham has been trying to do, he's more than happy to sacrifice MLS play if he can get to a final in this Leagues Cup, which is very achievable at this point in time. I mean, they're playing Charlotte, for God's sakes. I mean, they're not playing even the best MLS team left in this tournament. So it's very achievable for them to get it to a final, to maybe get a cup. And then you got Open Cup, which is going to be another great achievement. That's 2 titles. If they get those 2, man, they're going to put that thing on cruise control. Tata might not even show up to these games, and he's going to be thinking about 2024, and it's going to be a different vibe. But in reality, this team is going to leave up achievements, and these international achievements, like Leagues Cup, usually have a different feel of immortality or legendary status, right? It's the first time that this has been done in this format. So can you be the first one to do it? I mean, it's night and day when it comes to the repercussions that a title can have for this franchise.
All right, I'm going to combine this because we got a handful of minutes left here with Niko. I want to combine red light, yellow light, green light, compare it to Leagues Cup, and see in your mind if anyone has been affected one way or the other from their Leagues Cup play or lack of play. Do you think, with what we've seen from the window closing, finally, players that have been brought in, teams that are still going in Leagues Cup, or teams that have not made it to where we are here in the final 8 of Leagues Cup, after the window closed, you can still look up free agents. Who's a red light, yellow light, green light coming out of the transfer window and here in Leagues Cup? I'm combining elements here. What do you think?
Wow, that's a interesting way to put it together. Keep me on my feet, keep me moving.
Broad as hell question to wrap things up.
All right, let me be the quarterback here, just moving my feet.
All right, Gino.
So red light might have to be Sporting Kansas City just because what they were unable to really get in the window. They were red hot in MLS. They were really becoming a team that was figuring it out, that was getting a lot of results, that you could see that was improving. And now you play a tournament where you put a lot of miles on your players, you got away from that rhythm, and then you get bullied by Toluca. So where is that going to put you in terms of that inertia that a tournament like this one can have in your group, in your style of play? Do you start doubting certain things? So all in all, I believe that Sporting Kansas City has been affected negatively in this one. And so I'm going to put him in the red light category.
Okay.
If we go yellow, let's go with the team that's still alive, and surprisingly so in Charlotte. I mean, they're a team that I was thinking they're just riding out the rest of the season. They really didn't do enough to make me excited in the window, in the transfer window. The team's still very limited, and you see it in their play. But it all goes back to what we've been saying all the way since February, and when we started watching this team early in the season, is that when they simplify things, they're at least a team that's going to compete, and they've done that. I mean, look, this Houston game that they won, I mean, honestly, it was more Houston losing it than Charlotte winning it. But how did they do it? Simple play. We're just going to play direct. We're going to take advantage of set pieces and be semi-dangerous in those set pieces. We're going to try to hold off. Kalina has been unbelievable in this tournament, whether it's in PKs or just in overall play, has been fantastic. Defensively, they held on. They haven't been immaculate, but they've been very hard to beat at times. Again, Houston could have had this game. I mean, in all general senses, I don't think I've seen a team be as dominant as Houston has in this particular game and then completely just fall apart in this one. I think Dorsey was cutting through them like a knife through Wonder Bread. I mean, their blocks, just carrying the ball. I mean, he was just having a good old time, like playing with his kids, just running up the field with the ball. And he's cutting through this Charlotte team, and still they were unable to finish. Nelson had a couple. Carrasquilla had one that was very easy to put away. They were not clinical, and they made all the mistakes in the back. That own goal is about as bad as it gets. No look past your goalkeeper. And then, obviously, Clark also had a bad closing on that first goal where he just comes out off his line and is late behind. Bad decision, makes it easy for Charlotte. So all in all, Charlotte is my yellow light because they've simplified what they're doing. They've been a little bit lucky and fortunate, but that could give you some sort of push into MLS play, making you more confident and making you a better team.
Okay, so then that leaves green light. Who's green light?
Green light's LAFC, man. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. There is no doubt about it. Did RSL also shoot themselves in the foot? Yeah. Playing high lines against this team, allowing Dennis Bouanga to just get behind your center backs. Awful, terrible build up from the back and just making it easy for a team like that is just basically a formula for disaster. It was the perfect storm in that 4-0 for a very good RSL team that we were all high on, that I was high on. But LAFC, man, just continues to do what they do best, and is allowing Bouanga to get in positions to put it away. He could be the best finisher in MLS right now, and he's been all season. He just knows how to put it away. Some of the young guys are getting in and getting some real valuable time and getting some confidence and scoring. All in all, Cherundolo has been able to rotate and use the depth of that roster, whether it's with the experienced guys like Cellini, or whether it's Murillo getting in there, or some of the younger guys. They haven't really felt the departure of guys like Master Sifu leaving the team. So all in all, I think this has worked in LAFC's advantage. They get back some of what they lost in CCL, which is some of that self-confidence, some of that inertia, and now they're getting it back. They could probably get pretty far in this one. I mean, they don't have an easy game here coming up, but if they can get out here and beat Monterrey, that has been excellent in this tournament, then you start to see that this team could go from green to, I don't know, what's above green. There's nothing above green, but they're definitely the green light team for me.
Double green.
Double green.
We'll go double green. All right, what's the latest with, before I wrap up with news of the morning and get everybody caught up on transfers and stuff, what's the latest with Soccer Bar and Pulso Sports?
All right, Soccer Bar, we will be back on Monday. No show today. We're back on Monday, and we're going to have a long show in that one to just try to put it all together, talk about the entirety of this Leagues Cup, what has been the good, what's been the bad, maybe some free agent transfer news that might happen. We'll see. There's some free agents that could be coming into the league late that could be interesting at Soccer Bar on Monday. And then in Pulso Sports, we're going back to training today for the Sounders. Long time off. They have a friendly that's going to happen here within the next couple of days, a friendly that they really need to get them on the right mindset for their game against Atlanta. You're Atlanta coming into Lumen Field here on the 20th. So they're trying to get it right. We'll talk to the coach, talk to a couple of players. So check it out at Pulso Sports.
And you get to see our boy Jason and Mike make the trip out to Seattle. So you get
well, that's good to know. I mean, sure, if Jason gets here a little bit earlier, maybe we can go catch a cold one.
There you go. So keep an eye out when they make their way out. So as we always do, it is Thursdays with Niko. Niko, my friend, thanks for hanging out with us here on the show, and we will catch up with you again next week, where we will continue to discuss things. We'll be that much closer to figuring out who's going to win Leagues Cup, and if we are correct when it comes to Intermessi CF, that they're one step closer to a star, probably two by the time they're done, and then we'll see what happens with the remainder of the MLS season. Be well, my friend. We'll catch up with you next week.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. How ironic would it be that Charlotte beats Inter Miami out of all the teams, both Liga MX and MLS? If they lose to Charlotte, man, that's going to be a bad ending. But I appreciate you, man. Your show is fantastic. Happy to be here. We'll see you guys next week.
You got it. That's Niko Moreno from Pulso Sports and Soccer Bar. So let's go over the rest of the news and what you're watching. Neymar Hutch, the way it's looking like right now, Al Hilal know, and this is from our friend Ben Jacobs, Al Hilal know that they're interested, and they're trying to get Neymar to come, but they also know that Neymar wants to stay in Europe. So we'll see what happens there when it comes to Neymar and what the latest is with Neymar. But yeah, you and Verratti, you guys don't even have to be a part of the team photo. It's like, yeah, you guys are okay. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, things left unsaid. Southampton have got a £48 million offer, including add-ons for Romeo Lavia. Chelsea has basically, the word was gazumped in the British media. They basically did an end run on Liverpool. And so it looks like Chelsea is that much closer to getting Romeo Lavia. Yeah. Now, well, the thing is, Hutch, the biggest thing is, first off, he'd have to be a free, for Major League Soccer, he'd have to be a free agent. He's not a free agent. He's still under contract with whomever, with PSG or whomever it would be. He'd have to basically get bought out, go to zero, be a free agent, and then they'd have to figure it out over the next 5 weeks. But that's the biggest stumbling block anyway, is that he'd have to be a free agent first and foremost when it comes to Neymar in Major League Soccer. Manchester United hoping to reunite Benjamin Pavard with Rafael Varane, making a €30 million bid for the Bayern Munich defender. Manchester United also keen on bringing in Sofiane Amrabat for $30 million from Fiorentina. That's from the four-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Amrabat's preference is to join Atletico Madrid this summer. PSG, once again, we talked about Neymar. Apparently, according to UOL Sport Brasil, they're going to meet this week in an attempt to sort out his future with a contract termination among the options. That would be your first step. If it is a contract termination, then anything's in play. Chelsea close to signing Moises Caicedo now, keen to finalizing a deal in time for him to face Liverpool on Sunday. That's from The Guardian. Kepa is wanted by Thomas Tuchel at Bayern as they look for a replacement for the injured Manuel Neuer. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Chelsea have also decided to abandon negotiations with Juve over the sign and trade, the make weights for the Vlahovic and Lukaku deal. They're not doing it anymore. Allegedly, apparently, probably. Sky Sports Italia. Brentford and David Raya set to join Arsenal on loan with an option to buy next summer rather than an immediate permanent move. Arsenal have rejected a £30 million bid from Monaco for Valérien Balogun. Instead, Arsenal looks like they're considering offering Balogun and Tomiyasu to enter in exchange for Nicolo Barella. That's from Calcio Mercato. West Ham rivaling Burnley for the loan capture of Chelsea's left-back Ian Maatsen, who spent last season with Company's side as they won the championship. That's the four-letter paper once again. Burnley also want to sign Manchester United's fullback Alvaro Fernandez on loan. He apparently impressed folks at Preston North End last year in the championship. Wolves expected to complete the signing of West Ham's Aaron Cresswell before the transfer window closes. Remember, Gary O'Neill is now in charge. Julian Lopetegui was dismissed after 9 months because Lopetegui was not happy about the lack of movement that was going on. They brought in roughly £85 million in outbound transfers, and they spent like 8.5. So Lopetegui's not happy. He's out. Gary O'Neill is in. Gary O'Neill knows how to work with a very low budget. Brighton's forward Julio Enciso is a target for Napoli. That's from the Telegraph. Bournemouth set to hijack Leeds' move for Norwich City's right back Max Aarons. Speaking of Leeds, Wilfred Gnonto asked to be left out of their lineup to face Shrewsbury Town in the Carabao Cup as he seeks a move. Four-letter paper. And Brazilian forward David Washington, the 18-year-old, close to completing a move to Chelsea. Blues paying Santos £13.8 million plus 3.4 in add-ons. Once again, that's from our friend Fabrizio Romano. Going over the rest of the transfer news. increasingly likely to stay. Harry Kane, unreal. Yep. Willing to pay 86 up front, add-ons to take the deal close to 100, a record for the club. 1 year left on his Spurs deal, no indication he'll renew. Tottenham felt agreeing a move was the best worst-case scenario, and it looks like he's now going to stay. Gary O'Neill in an interview with Sky, when he was asked about it, joining Wolves, he says, joining close to the start of the new season isn't ideal. I think a lot of folks are now looking at Wolves as a possible contender for relegation. Once again, we mentioned the moves about Neymar and his possibilities. Marco Silva at Fulham says Alexander Mitrovic is committed to Fulham, ready to play despite the club receiving a number of offers for the striker. Mitrovic was pissed at one point that the Bid value for him kept going up and up and up and up and up when Fulham wanted roughly £52 million for him. Mitrovic was pissed at one point. We'll see what happens. Florian Plettenberg can confirm Harry Kane is hesitating. Bayern is aware of it despite the verbal agreement. Plettenberg says he's just been told it's 50-50. So we'll see what happens. Monaco have agreed in principle to sign West Ham's Denny Zakaria from Juve. They've agreed to a fee of just over £17 million. 26-year-old spent last season on loan at Chelsea, been of interest to West Ham, among other clubs. According to Sky's Paul Gilmore, Harry Kane has been encouraged by Ange Postecoglou. Quote, we know Kane has enjoyed playing under Ange in the early days of that reign. Kane's been encouraged by his philosophy and training. I imagine that's one of the reasons involved in Kane staying. But what it does open the possibility to is if he's a Tottenham player during the season, he may sign a new contract during the season, or equally may leave at the end of the season on a free transfer. That's a non-committal quote. Potentially to a Premier League rival, something Spurs have always feared. Vincent Kompany also has Sander Berge now in the fold. And there's a very cute thing on social media involving Steve Martin and one of his movie roles and wanting a burger. So Manchester City remain in talks with West Ham over Lucas Paqueta. Initial approaches where it's understood City proposed a £60 million package dismissed out of hand. Brazilians understood to want to make the move. West Ham is thinking 85 and not 60. 25-year-old's got 4 years left on his deal option for a further. A release clause of $85 million kicks in next summer. West Ham are waiting on Harry Maguire to finalize his exit conditions from Manchester United before a medical can take place. All other aspects of the £30 million deal are in place, including personal terms. James Ward-Prowse traveling to London later today. Expected to start his West Ham medical tomorrow ahead of the £30 million move. He has to be registered by midday Friday to be available for the game against Bournemouth. Real Madrid exploring options in light of Courtois' serious knee injury. Contact has been made with David De Gea's representative. He's currently a free. Everton manager Sean Dyche expects Youssef Chermiti to add a different dimension to his side when the striker completes his move from Sporting. The 19-year-old on the verge of a £12 million transfer from Portugal, and Dyche hopes he'll ease some of the burden on Dominic Calvert-Lewin, bolster a team who were the Premier League's lowest scorers as they narrowly escaped relegation last year. I don't tend to speak about players. What I will speak about is Youssef is very close now. That a young player we can add to the squad. We think he's got the raw talent potential and can add a different dimension to the squad. That was a very quick Sean Dyche impression. Calvert-Lewin missed the majority of last season, may only be fit enough for a place on the bench to start the season at home to Fulham. Hasn't had a whole lot of minutes in the preseason. We mentioned Kepa and the loan. Liverpool's Thiago Alcantara intends to stay at the club this season, reportedly attracting renewed interest from Al Ahly, tabling a £10.4 million bid. Report claims Liverpool and The Athletic have not received an offer planning for the new season with the 32-year-old. Mbappe has told PSG he will not leave the club under any circumstances whatsoever this summer, but you still can't be in the team photo. Sky understands one point of contention is Mbappe feels let down by the club's transfer policy. PSG's position has not changed. He'll be frozen out and not play until his contract runs out next season. When he signed a new contract last summer, he thinks he was led to believe Lewandowski and Bernardo Silva would be joining him. PSG want to set a precedent, sending a message to all players, regardless of who they are. No one is bigger than the club. Thomas Tuchel told the Daily Telegraph he would be stunned if Harry Kane does not join the club. What's on TV today before we go? Soccer America, once again, our friends at BN have Sudamericana and Libertadores at 6 and 8. 9 o'clock quarterfinals on Fox, Telemundo, Universo, and Peacock, Netherlands and Spain. and Being en Español has Sudamericana Libertadores simulcast. Once again, you can go to fanatizfntz.co/soccer down here. Sign up for Fanatis. Jason got me hooked. I blame him. You can get Teise. You can get Nuestra Tele. You can get For the Fans. You can get all the BN networks. Watch all the activity that they have, Middle East, North Africa, France, all of that stuff. You can watch it all in one place at fanatizfntz.co/soccer down here. And so that is it for the show. We had to go a little extra time. Obviously, Bart got wound up about a lot of things, and that's what happens when it's your first time back. And having Niko in for Thursdays with Niko, obviously very, very cool. Tomorrow, it is a 9 o'clock start because we have a conference call at 11 o'clock to get ready for Atlanta United 2 and New England Revolution on the weekend. And our friends from Beyond Goal should be joining us at 9:30. We'll get you ready for the weekend that will be 9 o'clock start, starting 5 minutes early. And it'll be from 9 to 11 tomorrow. And we'll get you ready for everything involved on the weekend. What to watch, where to watch it, what's in play, is Harry Kane staying? How does Harry feel about Germany, the new soap opera with Hutch and everybody else? Thanks to all of you guys this morning for all your comments, everything in the Twitch pitch, hanging out with us and asking questions all across the board. Thanks to Bart Keeler at Bartimus Prime 19 at Soccer for USPOD, and for Niko Moreno at El Rolo in W and Sports Pulso and the Soccer Bar. So we'll be back at it again 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Since it is the end of the show, that means one thing. Mucha plati, I'll play it safe for everybody. It means I get to do this. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, to wrap up another week here at SDH. Bye.